Let's talk about a man you've probably never heard of, but whose ideas are, well, they're everywhere. I mean, literally all around you, in the phone in your pocket, in the way our economies work, even in the global balance of power. We're going to dive into the story of the man who quietly designed the world we live in today. Okay, so let's start with a big question. Who was the smartest person of the 20th century? Instantly, you probably think of Einstein, right? Maybe Richard Feynman. But here's the thing. A lot of the top scientists who knew these people, the actual giants in the field, they would have put their money on a completely different guy. Someone whose mind was, by all accounts, just operating on a whole other level. This is him, John von Neumann, a Hungarian-American genius whose work didn't just contribute to science, it totally redefined it. It's honestly hard to wrap your head around just how much this one person accomplished. To give you an idea, he would just walk into a field of study and completely revolutionize it. He started with his home turf, mathematics. He didn't just solve problems. He helped rewrite the foundational rules of the entire discipline to make it more rigorous. Then he moved on to physics, giving the bizarre new world of quantum mechanics the solid mathematical language it desperately needed, a language it still uses to this day. After that, computing. Yeah, he just casually came up with a fundamental design, the blueprint that powers virtually every computer, server, and smartphone on the planet. And, just for good measure, he co-founded game theory, creating a mathematical way to analyze strategy that turned economics and political science upside down. And, believe it or not, that's just scratching the surface. So how is that even possible for one human being? So where does a mind like that come from? Well, the story starts way back in, he was one of those kids. I mean, not just smart, but something else entirely, right from the very beginning. He was born in Budapest in 1903 into a wealthy banking family, so he definitely had a head start. His dad made sure young Johnny learned multiple languages, but his own curiosity was just boundless. For fun, the kid devoured a 46-volume world history series, and thanks to a photographic memory, he remembered pretty much all of it. But his talent for math, that was on another planet. Get this, by the age of 8, think about that, 8 years old, while most kids are figuring out multiplication tables, he was already comfortable with differential and integral calculus. His talent was so extreme, it would genuinely shock people. When he was 15, his family hired a top-tier mathematician to tutor him. After just their first session, the tutor, this expert in his field, went home and literally cried. He was just so overwhelmed by the sheer power and speed of the teenager's mind. So, as you can imagine, it didn't take long for him to go from being a student of math to one of its master architects. He jumped into the field at a moment when math itself was having a bit of an identity crisis. The very foundations were shaky. Now, I know this chart looks a little intense, but it basically shows that math was a mess back then. Think of it like trying to build a giant skyscraper, but the blueprints had all these contradictions in them. There were cracks in the foundation. Von Neumann comes along, and he's the guy who writes new rules, patches the holes, and gives mathematics the solid, logical ground it still stands on today. See, he was all in on this quest to create a perfect, complete, totally consistent system for all of mathematics. But then, bam. In 1930, a guy named Kurt Gödel drops a philosophical bombshell. He proves that any formal system like that will always be incomplete. For most people, this was a huge setback. But for von Neumann, it was a sign. He immediately pivoted, turning that incredible brain away from pure theory and towards the messy, complicated problems of the real world. And messy is putting it lightly. The world he turned his attention to was careening towards war. After moving to the United States, he found himself right at the heart of the defining scientific and military struggles of the modern era. Take quantum mechanics. At the time, it was this wild, new theory, full of bizarre ideas that even its founders didn't fully understand. It was all fuzzy probabilities and uncertainty. Von Neumann was the one who came in and gave it a mathematical backbone. His 1932 book translated all that weirdness into the airtight language of pure math, a framework that physicists still use today. And this shows you just how deep he went. He helped prove that the quantum world doesn't even obey our basic rules of logic. In our world, a light is either on or it's off. A or B. Simple. But in quantum logic, a particle can exist in a weird state of, well, both, until the exact moment you measure it. It's absolutely mind-bending. And this kind of abstract, high-level thinking had some incredibly real and frankly terrifying applications. During World War II, he was a crucial part of the Manhattan Project. His job was to solve an unbelievably difficult problem: how to design an explosion that could crush a sphere of plutonium perfectly evenly from all sides to trigger a nuclear chain reaction. He solved it. His math was the key to the implosion device used in the bomb dropped on Nagasaki. After the war, von Neumann's focus shifted again. This time, he turned to a machine that would reshape society just as much as the bomb had: the electronic computer. See, the first computers were these clunky, awkward things. To make them do something different, you had to physically get in there and rewire them. Von Neumann's idea was so simple, it was revolutionary. It's now called the von Neumann architecture. He said, what if we store the program's instructions in the same memory as the data? This created a simple, elegant loop. Fetch an instruction, decode what it means, and then execute it. And you really need to let that sink in for a second. That simple cycle, fetch, decode, execute, is the ghost in the machine. It is the fundamental heartbeat of your laptop, the servers running the internet, and the phone you're probably holding in your hand. He designed the blueprint for the digital age. And his work wasn't just in the lab. His influence reached all the way to the halls of power in Washington. He became a top-level government advisor, helping to shape America's entire nuclear strategy during the Cold War. He sat on the Atomic Energy Commission and helped design the country's first intercontinental ballistic missiles. He wasn't just a scientist. He was a core architect of national defense. But a mind that burned that brightly, one that worked so closely with the raw elemental power of the atom, well, maybe it was never destined to burn for a very long time. In 1955, von Neumann was diagnosed with cancer. He died just 2 years later at only 53 years old. It's widely believed his illness was a result of radiation exposure from his work at Los Alamos. A deeply tragic irony for the man who helped unleash nuclear power and then spent years trying to manage it. So how do you even sum up a legacy that massive? His colleague, the mathematician Garrett Birkhoff, probably said it best. And get this, he was talking about von Neumann's impact on just one small subfield of math when he said his mind blazed like a meteor. It's the perfect description. He was an intellectual force of nature that just lit up any field it crossed. And that leaves us with one last big thought. The life of von Neumann is proof that a single, focused mind can fundamentally alter the course of human history. So it has to make you wonder, right? Who's out there right now, maybe in a university lab or a garage somewhere, thinking up the ideas that are going to define the rest of our century?